Hi, Laura.
Hi, Natalie.
It is so good to see you. Oh, did you know that your earrings match your shirt?
I think I planned that today, yeah.
I'm impressed.
Sometimes I do plan ahead and I laid out all of my clothes last night ahead of time.
Ooh, that's a rare thing for you?
That's a rare thing for me, yeah.
Okay. My daughter lays out all of her clothes the night before because she's excited, not
Oh,
because she's
yeah.
very organized. It's a thing that makes her happy.
That's lovely. It's
Yes.
lovely.
Yes. All right. So, Laura and you and I have known each other for
A decade?
a decade and many
Yeah.
different capacities. And I have definitely learned from you our entire relationship, and I continue to learn. And every time we get together, it is an amazing, heartfelt conversation.
And also, for the record, at one point, and this is my own conditioning, like when I think it was when you had the VP title, I was like, I was kind of scared of you.
Oh my God.
Because I had this thing with titles, and when people had certain titles that they were like better than other people. And so I don't know, like it was really strange for us to like make that bridge finally from like professional relationship to like we're now friends.
You know what's really funny is when I had my first VP title and I was looking for my next opportunity, I remember reaching out to you in your recruiter capacity. I
Yeah.
said, okay, I want to look around. Where should I look around? And you spoke with me as as a mentor. So the fact that you had any sort of intimidation or fear
I
happening in
did.
that point in time completely missed it. And I read people fairly well. So like it was not there. You put on your I got this face.
I sure, I think I've been used to doing that for a long time.
Okay. Well, I think that leads us really nicely into the conversation, the whole
It
concept
does.
of I got this and I got this face. Because you and I want to talk about getting help and why it's so hard to recognize that you need help, to ask for help, to accept help. Like it's a whole thing.
It's a huge thing. And this has been the year of me putting my arms out and saying, I'm ready to receive.
So why is it so
And I
hard?
literally have to do this posture.
You actually
I
go,
actually have
I'm
to.
ready, bring it.
It's like a waterfall that gets to come down on me, that gets to just like come down because I'm so used to grinding and
Mm.
pushing and forcing, and just that stuff doesn't feel good anymore.
So I am obviously very similar in my journey of kind of having this concept of nobody wants to help you. And if you ask for help, you are less worthy of the accomplishment. Like that was an ingrained programming for a very, very long time. And I've been on my self recognition, ascension, connection,
Yeah.
decompression journey for a very
Whatever.
long time. But still, now when I recognize that I need to ask for help, it's swirly everywhere. Why is it so hard?
Because it is a new neural connection. I always like to say this, like in our brains, like we've got ones that are like these gravel roads that have hardly been paved, and we've got the ones that are like 6-lane highways,
Yeah.
that it's just a pattern, it's just a program, and we have the capacity to rewrite a new program. But it always feels so uncomfortable in the beginning when you're creating these new neural. Again, I am not a medical, like, this is just sort of Laura's way of understanding how the brain works. And the brain is like this, so it wants to give you what you need. However, we've spent so much time usually saying things or doing things that we actually don't want. So, like, how can we focus on what we do? And then also be kind enough to ourselves when this is something new. It's just like when I first started lifting heavy weights, my body was like, what are you doing? This is not okay. We are going to die. We are going to die, even though I wasn't.
But you're exactly correct. So those 6-lane highways that you're talking about are the really well-trained neural pathways. Here's a thing that we have done a million times before. We've survived.
Mhm.
We are here. we're successful, depending on the day that and the reflection that you're looking at. So
Mhm.
clearly that has served us before, that is known, that is comfortable, let's go. And then you're trying to tell your brain to say, no, don't go down this well-known road. This shady part with an unmarked trail with potentially some bears lurking behind the trees, that's the better one. And your entire body is going, uh-uh.
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 Uh-uh. Uh-huh.
And so
And
that physical discomfort, right? I know for me, I feel like I get a little sweaty
mhm.
and my muscles get tight and my stomach starts to churn a little bit. Like if I have to text somebody for help or if I email somebody for help, like my finger hovers over the button. I need to like force myself to relax and then press send. Because it's scary still.
Yeah. 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 Because you don't it's for you, it's not a 6-lane highway yet. It's not. And like, but you've got to put in the reps in order to get that. And let's pretend you're on the receiving end, right? Let's pretend I'm getting the email from Natalie asking for help. And like if you could only switch places with me and understand like people want to help people.
People want to say
People want
yes.
to help
People want
people.
to say yes. You have to give them the opportunity to say yes.
Yes. And that is how I have gotten around this because I have remembered, oh, what's the feeling when someone reaches out, especially if it's a phone call and saying like, Laura, I need your help right now. It's like, of course. Of course. And so why would I deny someone else that opportunity? Right? Like if I'm the one reaching out, like why would I deny anyone the opportunity? Because it is a continuous loop, giving and receiving. It's like give, receive, like it's just this continuous loop. The more that you're open to receive, then like when you receive, you're like, oh my gosh, then you just naturally want to go give.
Yes.
It becomes this amazing feedback loop that and shout out to reading like The Go Giver. I've read that a couple times now, but like it's a way of living. It's a way of being.
So I'm wondering if this fear of asking for help has anything to do with people who are deeply empathetic because I know that part of my fear and my worry is I don't want to inconvenience people, right? Maybe they want to say yes, but they really can't. So me asking is going to make them feel bad. Maybe they will feel bad for kind of saying no, or maybe, right, like I'm putting them in a position where there's a 50-50 chance that they might feel bad as a result. And part of it is probably overthinking, well, definitely overthinking it, overprotecting it, over being overly planful and overly anxious. But I'm wondering how much empathy actually plays into that fear versus somebody who maybe doesn't have the more natural capacity to think about the feelings of others.
That's an interesting point. Where I think though is asking yourself, like when I'm in a fear state versus if I'm in a thriving state. So I try not to do too many actions when I'm in what I call primal state. So primal state is like anything that makes you feel bad, like fear, anxiety, worry, frustration. So I try not to do hardly any actions from that state because it never produces the result I want because you're in fear and worry and lack and limitation, and it's just going to produce more of that versus when you're in a powerful state. And when you're in a powerful state, you might be calm, you might be content, you might be peaceful, you might feel empowered, and any action taken from that state is going to have a lot more sort of like energy and charge to it. And so when I'm reaching out to someone, I'm always like, okay, where am I operating from right now? Because you're either in one or the other. You can't be in both. And you know it
That
by
is
the
true.
you know it by the way you feel. And so this has gotten me at least to start doing less because I also want to like talk to the person who feels like there's a limiting belief, like there's not enough time, I'm not enough, there isn't enough, there's not enough jobs, there's not whatever that limiting belief is like when you're operating from that, you're just going to keep perpetuating that one over and over and over. So
I
I know it sounds counterintuitive, but like go do something that brings you joy, even if that's like listening to a song for 3 minutes that puts you in a positive state. And from that state, you are going to be so much more magnetic and powerful and and be able to create the results that you want.
So, for anyone that's not necessarily connecting with the energy and law of attraction type conversations,
Yeah.
there's also a scientific reason for this.
Great.
When you are in your like primal state, as you use, when you're in anxiety, when you're in fear, you are operating from your reactionary brain. Because if let's think about like from an evolutionary standpoint, you're getting chased by a bear. Now is not the time to analyze the color of the bears. Now is the time to run. So let's stop thinking. Let's start doing, like, we're just going to
Mhm.
react, react, react. So when that happens, your brain literally cuts off your prefrontal cortex. And your prefrontal cortex is where you can actually have access to all of the resources. That's where you have your better verbiage. That's where you have access to all of your memories and all of the little intricacies that you might have remembered about the person that you're going to speak to. So without even trying, you're going to have access to a lot more information to have better communication, ask for the better thing, and bring yourself to a situation much better than if you're coming to it from that primal state where you're just reacting.
Thank you for that. Yeah, I appreciate you giving this more scientific view because yeah, I mean, I happen to realize that so much of my gift is in reading people's energy.
Mhm.
And that's what's literally made me a successful recruiter. But I can also pick up people's energy if I'm out in public, if I'm in,
Mhm.
like, I just am more tuned to, I mean, we're all just different energies. And like the way that, even you think about when people get a job offer or they get an opportunity that comes their way, it's like how I look at it is like they're a vibrational match for each other, right? But not everyone understands that. But it's, you can tell the difference in someone who's bringing, what I call sort of like their authentic self, like who they really are to a conversation versus someone who is very scripted, who seems nervous, who just is on edge a little bit, or dare I say, wearing a mask, like trying to be what they think the other person needs them to be.
Okay, so I know we're not, this is not the topic of the conversation, but I do want to talk about exactly what you're talking about in terms of interviews. Once you get into the conversation when you're having interviews, our brains, they're processing millions of inputs any given moment. So for us to form an opinion that is going to be the filter and how we receive the information from this person, we're looking for signals of safety and signals of trust.
Hmm.
And those signals are the ones that we bring on a frequency level, right? The way that we are, our heart rate, our current blood pressure, our breath rate, how we're sitting, how tense our muscles are, all of that is a vibrational
Yeah.
state, quite literally and scientifically. And the person on the other end is impacted, even if it's digitally like this, is impacted by our state. And when they sense that you're coming in a little bit more tense with slightly elevated blood pressure, with slightly shallower breath, with slightly tenser muscles, that tells them to not trust. So that authenticity that you're talking about is quite literally vibration and frequency.
So it makes sense then how I was so embarrassed. The person who I'm now like doing the most work with, who I broke down, complete tears. Talk about being authentic. I'm like, that was my first impression. I'm like, wow. But then I thought about it. I'm like, you know what? At first I felt a little bit of shame, and I thought about like, no, I don't need to be any shameful. I'm like, those were real tears because I'm working through an issue that I shared, and I'm like, I've absolutely nothing to like apologize for. And I'm like, I realized I set that foundation of we just come as we are. Like just come as you are. Like you don't need to pretend to be anything else. And so without even realizing it, I'm like, huh, that is exactly what you said, with creating safety. And now I'm picking up on it. There's been a couple meetings that I've joined with different groups I'm a part of, and the facilitator specifically calls out, this is a safe space. I'm like, oh man, we're at that point where we have to call out like this is a safe space because we've been so conditioned to being in so many environments in our profession that have not been safe.
Mhm.
Like no wonder so many people have a hard time learning.
Unmasking.
Yeah, because it's been decades of not feeling safe.
And some of it is also recognizing who is this authentic self that you would want to bring, because you've had so much practice adapting your outer self to whatever environment that you're in. Okay, well, maybe if you've done that for a couple of decades, it's going to take a few years of practice to dig in and figure out
Yeah,
who it is that you are. I took us completely off topic. Let's go
that's
back to
okay.
asking for help.
Sorry. No, I'm like, I'm usually the one guilty of us like,
Meandering a little bit, but it's good stuff.
yes.
Okay, so we talked about asking for help. Let's talk about accepting help. Let's say you have people in your life who know you well enough so that can come and say, I have something for you. I want you to take it. I mean, we will go, great. I accept and I receive, right? But not everybody's in that spot. So accepting help is a whole additional barrier.
It's almost like you have to look at your own thinking, because what I had to get over is I attached a meaning to it that, like, if I accept help, that means I'm actually not competent. And so I had to change my belief. So it required this rewiring and awareness of, oh, Laura, you're attaching a meaning to this. May not be true.
Hmm.
And so it required then for me to say, oh, time out. What if the new meaning is accepting help is actually a symbol of my strength? Because I don't want to operate in areas that aren't my zone of genius anymore. So what if it's actually like, oh, I'm aware of this old meaning that I gave it that really wasn't true. And so now I'm rewiring to say every time I accept help from someone, that actually makes me a more powerful executive or entrepreneur or insert the blank, because I don't
Absolutely.
waste my time on things that I are not a core competency.
I see this a lot with early leaders, as in they're just starting to lead a team. They're just starting to have people that are reporting to them. And this concept of, well, I am the leader. I have to have all the answers. I have to be the one who's the best at everything. Otherwise, how could I possibly lead these people? And let's be honest, some people never get over that
Yep. Yep.
hurdle. But when you finally start to recognize what your job as a leader is to recognize where there are gaps and bring in the people who are better than you at those things and filling those gaps. A lot of things that I talk about when I coach, I am certain you do too, is that it is not our job to take our weaknesses and make them our strengths. It's just our job to know where they are
Yeah.
and know how to bring in the help, how to mitigate them, how to bring them up to neutral so that they're not detractors on our journey.
But let's also talk about the willingness of a leader to say that they don't have all the answers.
That's hard.
But also, have you ever been in rooms with leaders who have done that?
Rarely, but it happens.
Do you respect that person more or less?
Oh, I respect that person 100%. It's actually, have you ever read Thinking in Bets?
Mm-mm.
I think it's by Annie Duke. I will need to look it up and make sure I correct it if needed. But one of the concepts that they talk about the fact that the world is essentially poker, right? You don't know for sure anything. Literally nothing that you know is anything that you know for sure. It's the level of certainty and the level of probability that you look at a situation, and
Sure,
based on that information you make a bet,
sure,
and you
sure.
can always win and you can always lose because you don't know what's happening behind the curtain. So but that similar concept there, she talks about where people almost immediately trust a person more if they don't make a completely categorical claim, if they make a claim that has some wiggle room, where I can disagree with you and not call you a liar.
This is what I've seen cause so much tension in teams and so much turnover. And being, as a recruiter for so many years, I'm like, gosh, people, if we could just be honest with ourselves and not have to like pretend like we know it all in order to sort of save face, or, it's almost like these unwritten rules that we've told ourselves that I have to know everything. When you look at and I talk to the people on that team, they would say like, "Oh my gosh, if only so and so could just empower me, I have the answers. Like I've done this before, right?" And so rather than like getting into these ego just wars essentially, it's so I think critical for anyone who reaches a place of power to say out loud more often like, "I actually don't know the answer here, but here's an idea. Who else has an idea?" Like I just believe right now it's so important to not pretend and to
Mhm.
not, like put so much weight on your own shoulders that is quite honestly unsustainable. Like I just am seeing so many people burn out because they think they have to know everything and they don't.
Well, first of all, it's impossible, right? It is absolutely impossible to know everything and be good at everything. And that this concept of zone of genius, right? That's operating from within your zone of genius is where you can make miracle happen. This is where abundance comes through. This is where things just click and just work because it's where you're programmed to be excellent. And if you take that a step further and talk about where there's areas that are not your zone of genius, it is expected that there's going to be areas that are not these miraculous areas, right? So
Mhm.
recognizing that this doesn't mean anything bad
About
about
you.
you as a person.
Yeah. Yeah.
It makes you the human miracle that you are because you have the zone of genius and the zone of weakness because you have both sides of the coin because you contain multitudes.
Mhm. Mhm.
And what makes you powerful is bringing in things that can create your experience to be more rounded, create your capabilities to be more rounded, make your team be more rounded.
And even if you're a solo person, right? Like you can think outside the box. Like it's not like you have to go hire someone. Like let's say you're like, she's like, okay, Laura, sounds great, but I don't have any money right now. I'm like, guess what I'm seeing a ton of? People exchanging their gifts.
Service exchange, absolutely.
Like it's a thing. Lots of people do it. And you're like, really? Like, uh-huh. I am just still blown away. It's something as so simple as for so many years, I wanted a beautiful website and how much time I wasted trying to teach myself how to do this.
And for anybody that knows Laura, this is not necessarily in her zone of genius.
Oh, oh, this is so, but I would continue to get frustrated and like I would stay in frustrated and just again, like that's a primal state, right? Like that's nothing's good, it's gonna come out of here. And finally this spring, I was like, all right, if I'm meant to have a beautiful new website before my book launches, I'm here for it. And again, the posture, I'm open for it. Well, it just so happened that after the next Pursue Your Purpose workshop, a woman who was in there said, "You want your help with anything branding, websites, design?" She's like, "I would love to help you." And that thing went off my brain like ding, 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 Laura, go have coffee with this woman. And I didn't do anything for this website, like other than I asked and I was given a person who was able to execute. And it, for me, as much as I want to say, I'll, believe it to see it, I was kind of like, okay, like I need to see this to believe this. Like I'm almost like putting my creator to the test here. Like, okay, like show me what you got. And I was like beyond stunned because here I have the most, I think just it's a beautiful website. And I'm like kicking myself for how many years I thought I had to do that on my own.
Mhm.
And all I had to do was accept someone else's help.
Okay, so let's talk about what help looks like because sometimes it shows up as a person that says, "Here's what I do, and I would love to help people." And this is when you just get to say yes.
Yeah.
Please
They're like,
help
yeah,
me.
okay, show me how we do this. I'd have the slightest clue.
But it also doesn't need to be quite that literal and quite that complete, right? It can be as much as, hey, I want to introduce you to a person. I don't know if there's anything there, but this is a person that's a good person that knows people, so maybe something will come from it.
Yeah.
That's help. Say
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah. But that so then what you're fighting right there is you're fighting your brain who's like, I want to get this outcome. done as soon as possible. And they're like, and you want me to go spend an hour with a stranger?
Or I'm not ready to have a conversation with a stranger yet. I haven't figured out how to position myself. My resume's not ready. I don't know exactly when my book's going to launch,
Mhm.
whatever that might be.
Insert, yeah, insert whatever.
Yes.
Yeah.
I am not ready for that conversation is just another code for I'm scared to accept this help.
Hmm.
This help shows up for a reason. Take it.
But what I've learned is that people will do it when they're ready. And it's like they have to make that decision. And there's nothing I can do to make someone else ready.
I disagree
Okay.
with that.
Well, okay. But what I'm getting at is only like they're the one that can make the decision to
They're
accept.
the one that they can make the decision. This conversation right here
Can,
might make a whole slew of people, might be that last drop in their bucket that gets them to be ready. You know,
yeah.
those fountains at water parks, they're like keeps dripping water and it
Mhm.
slowly starts to tip, slowly starts to
Yeah.
tip. That's how I think about readiness, right? You have this empty bucket and it's kind of teetering and you
Yeah.
keep adding water and you keep adding water and you keep adding water. And when
Mhm.
finally it's full, it might be the silliest thing that tips it over.
Yeah.
But what you and I can do is add some water to the bucket. It might be the very bottom, so it might be years until it tips,
Uh-huh.
or it might be that last drop that somebody
Right.
needs to go and take the step. So you're right, there's nothing we can do to actually make them take the step, but that readiness bucket, I think it could always use some filling.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh. Yeah, I guess yeah, we shouldn't underestimate the power of influence. And I mean, I just have to say, like, I put so many people up on pedestals for so many years. I'm like, oh, it must be nice for them. Oh, it must be great. And then I'm like, Laura, stop that. Like, stop thinking like that. Maybe go ask them. Like, rather than just make assumptions and judgments, from afar. Like, people are willing to be like honest with what it took. And I think, I guess I'm here to just like say it's hard for me to realize that someone else might be looking at you or me and being like, how do they have it all figured out? And I'm here to say, like,
We
we
do not.
actually don't.
Not
we
even a little
we
bit.
actually don't. We're just willing to keep putting the next right action of integrity out there. And then if that didn't work, okay, then what's the next right action of integrity? And like, what if someone told you you are 29 failures away from getting to your goal? Would you get out there and get busy at failing? Because I freaking fail at something every day, multiple times a day.
Yeah.
It's become a muscle where I'm so action oriented that I don't even think about it anymore. It's just like, well, I know that I trust myself. And even if this doesn't lead to my goal, there's going to be something that comes from it. A new
Absolutely.
connection. I'll learn something. I'll have a laugh.
Yes, there's always those. So I actually very practically this concept I want to talk about network, right? There's many people who are in the market for jobs right now. Applying is not going to be the thing that magically makes it work. And there's so many people that have a fear around networking because they don't know what they bring to the conversation of value and they feel like it's asking somebody to for help and somebody to put their name out there to put a word in for you. And that's a scary thing to ask. I can tell you, anytime somebody asks me to network, if I'm able to make time, I will make time because some of the most interesting connections, interesting conversations, and in many cases, opportunities came because I said yes. So reach out, just ask.
And I think I have a different lens on this is because I've gotten the luxury of being able to meet so many interesting people through the course of my career that like that's isn't that part of the whole point is just to meet really interesting people and build relationships. Like if I look at the end if I'm going to the end of my life and I'm looking back and I'm thinking who's going to show up at my funeral, it's going to be the people who I've built relationships with. Like, and I want a stadium full of people because I want to have impacted that many lives. So for me, I'm like, yeah, I optimize my day so that I'm interacting with people versus sitting behind a computer, not interacting with people. And I know not everyone's built that way, but there's so much richness when you can connect with other humans. And like, that is the point is that when you actually make those connections, people want to help you.
Yeah. And often people are flattered. to be asked.
Mhm.
Because when you reach out, even if it is to say, I was interested in this particular thing that you posted about, I have this thing that I'm trying to accomplish, I would love to get your thoughts on it.
Yeah.
That feeling of somebody wants my thoughts on
Yeah.
something, it's flattering. No matter who you are, no matter where you are in your career, it's flattering.
It's so flattering, and you know how many people don't reach out because 'cause they're intimidated or they're telling themselves a story that's not true. So, I make sure that when someone has the courage to reach out to me and I can tell that they've either done their research, they've spent some time looking at some of my content, I'm like, "Of course I wanna reward that courage.
Mhm.
Of
Mhm.
course I wanna reward that."
Absolutely.
Versus, I mean, yeah, I mean, it's almost the classic. I remember being in like sales training early on in my career where it was baffling because there would always be that salesperson that was the leader, like the 1%. And this guy was interviewing him and asked him, well, do people reach out and ask your secrets and your, what, how you got there? And he's like, hardly anyone. And that just was like, huh. Remember like, so if people are ahead, whatever you determine ahead, like of basically if people are where you want to be in life, if they're doing something that you want to do, ask them.
Mhm.
Because I know that they rarely get asked. They rarely get asked. And like, doesn't that just blow your mind? You're like,
Yes.
because you would think they have hundreds of people reaching out to them. Nope, hardly anyone.
Okay, with that thought, all right. It's October 29th. We'll probably post this content in a few weeks. It's the end of the year. People are looking at their New Year's resolutions from last year, reflecting on the year, thinking about the year ahead. So, if you are trying to accomplish something, whether it's personal or professional, and you've recognized that you don't have all the skills and don't have all the answers, because none of us do, how do you get started with getting the support you need? What's the first step?
The first step to getting the support that you need, reaching out to someone who you believe can help you.
I'll give it a slightly different caveat. Reaching out to somebody who's already accomplished
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
what you're trying to accomplish,
Yeah.
even if they can't necessarily help you, talk to
Okay.
them,
Yeah. Yeah.
make
Yeah.
them the concept of like making people that you idolize human
Yeah.
and recognizing that they still have to go to the grocery store from time to time
Yeah.
is very helpful. So find people who have done what you have done, reach out to them and
Yeah.
talk to them.
Yeah.
And the other thing I tell people a lot is think about what you need for your first step. Maybe it's a website, maybe it's a name, maybe it's a pricing strategy, maybe it's a resume, whatever you need for your first step.
Hmm.
Look at your text messages, at your emails, and at your social media feeds of the people that you know and think
Hmm.
about who can help you, right? Somebody there has the skills for your
Yes.
first step.
Yes.
Go talk to them and tell them what you're trying to do. They might offer help all on their own, but just tell them what you're trying to accomplish with the intention that here's a person that has the skills to get me to my first step.
I love that so much. It's just the courage to take the first step and reach out. That's it. And from there, like just give yourself grace. Like just so much grace. It's almost
Oh,
like like talk to yourself the way you would talk to a child. Like, okay, we're gonna do something we haven't done before, and it's okay.
it's not supposed to work the first time. It
Mm,
never does. But after you do it the first time and the second time and the third time, you keep getting better and better and
and better
better.
and better and better and better and better and better. Yeah,
And the
I was also just like anchor in like I don't know, I just feel like it's really important to like anchor in just gratitude. I know this is so cheesy and like we always talk about it, but like it really helps you come from a more powerful state when you are just grounded in like all the things that are going right, all the things that you do have. And from that perspective, you just show up differently.
You show up differently and you actually look at the journey differently because this concept of it's only successful once it's complete means that you have failed all the way up until that point, which is so not true.
Oh, not true.
Looking at the entire journey as the process and the progress. So you can
Mhm.
be thankful for every step forward. You can be thankful for every new lesson. You
Yes.
can be thankful for the ridiculousness of some of the situations. The point is the process, the journey, the learning, the growth. The point is not the made up objective that you have in your head, because once you get there, you'll probably change it again.
You will. As someone who was like, I'll be happy when, and then I got there and I'm like, wait, no, this is not all there is. Wait, no. No, it's an what is Simon saying? Like the infinite game. It's an infinite game.
Yeah. Laura, as usual, this is lovely.
We could do this all day.
We can do this all day. Have a lovely rest of your day. We will talk again soon. Meantime, am I doing this right?
Yes, receive.
Receive.
Such a pleasure.